Making the peace of reason, shaping a peaceless season. Reason to keep believing, waking the beast who's sleeping. Let go this destiny, you're caught in a trance, ever marking time inside a dream, no sign of advance. You see, the mortal core we serve is hot like a spring. Step back, two step, 1, 2, 3. Our world's a fantasy, no more than a test, ever feeding off the fallacy, creating this mess. Deep down inside this bleak machine with all of the rest. Break free, two-face, electricity. Time turning up the volume, time turning on as always. No time enough tomorrow for turning back to where we began. 22 sectors tested, fragmented in one direction. Celestial noise detected, delirium unsuspected. 32 sectors tested, fragmented in one direction. Celestial noise detected, delirium unsuspected. Dive into 3, 2, 3. Arrested destiny, alone in a trance. No escaping from this waking dream, no hope of advance. You see, the mortal core we serve is not but a spring. Unwind, too slow, too quick, too much to believe. You love a fantasy, you failed the test, ever forging all new fallacies, creating more mess. Directly through this bleak machine with all of the rest. DC, dying, electricity. Presented, falling back right into the system of falling. Error, repeat, deleting, radicals flowing free, and energy slowly seeping, suspending all disbelief, and synergy with our being, synapses firing free then. Sectors tested, fragments in one direction. Celestial noise detected, delirium unsuspected. Static tuned into reason, time in the ether deepens. Transmissions blink uncompleted. 7, 2, 3, 2, 3.
Sonic boom, rings loud from the engines. Ironclad murder gonna eliminate the distance. Ain't no landers gonna take us. Cold dust in the fluster to supercalifragilistic. Slow down, taking no hits. Accelerating passes, blasters fit to transmit. Sudden to the father, to the maker's own way. There's a method to the metal on the metal highway. Keeping up the pace, keeping with the quickness. Keep the lightning bottle, throttle to the finish. Got nothing to prove, and pushing all your buttons with a button pushing blue hand. Blue blazes, blue faces, blue blood, blue truth. Gonna see you black and blue. Keeping up the pace, cruising with the quickness. Keep the lightning bottle, throttle to the finish. 30,000 goblins gonna solve the goblins' problems, cause the problems of the goblins going right until they solve them. Yeah, but 30,000 goblins gonna solve the goblins' problems with exploding, smashing, bashing, whacking, cracking, smacking, kinda chaos. E to the L to the E, X, enter. Gobby's gonna rise up, boom like thunder. Like thunder. Rise up, and raise the iron roof off. Rise up and riot till the bomb drops. with me, rise with me, rise with me, rise up. Rise with me, rise with me, rise with me, rise with me. Step back, the blues about to pull you under. L to the EX, enter. Copy's gonna rise up, boom like thunder. A to the L to the EX, enter. Copy's gonna rise up, boom like thunder. A to the L to the EX, enter. Copy's gonna rise up, boom like thunder. A to the L to the EX, enter. Copy's gonna rise up, boom like thunder. Tongue flaps and jingly shies, quick thinks and gobby minds. Bow down to the new god, Alexandria. Rise up and raise the iron roof off. Now rise up and riot till the bomb drops. Now rise up, the time is way to sound. Now so rise with me, rise with me, rise with me, rise up. Rise with me, rise with me, rise with me, rise up. Rise with me, rise with me, rise with me, rise with me. With me, rise with me.
Drifting tender, comrade, heroes ride. Her gallant severed away with the tide. The storm head gathers, comrade, heroes fly. Illusions scattered away with the tide. Why do weathered warriors wander their way where the wanting wonders wait? Hark the herald's anchors away. heroes come right, heroes ride in deafening silence. We'll wave with tide, a wake of hazard. Come right, heroes ride. All in and windward away with the tide. Stellar stories, starward be strong, slipping sidewise. See their snakes twixt the leaves. You'll find autumn is missing gods and crossing fades. Freedom surging, shifting ahead. Comets dancing in her way to the cosmic clarions accord along the path now taken. Try to tread on a road that is borrowed design. Through the sun of the signs do they see tomorrow? Tonight, witness them as the end shall begin. What was fine will be lies, falling back, further back, with the back to burn and to come on. Come ride, heroes ride, ride with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, to my final escape. Come ride, heroes ride, ride with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, to my final escape. Staring at death, I take a breath. There's nothing left. Now close my eyes for one last time and say goodbye. Lying naked while the snow falls all around me. Drifting closer to the edge, but she won't have me. Wake up and sweat, full of regret. Try to forget these memories lurking beneath, lost in a dream. Unchosen paths, a broken past, forspoken wrath. The pain won't cease, I'll find no
Ein brings shadow, one brings light. Two-tone echoes tumbling through time. Three stories fit and cast aside. For knowing no end in sight. One brings shadow, one brings light. Two-tone echoes tumbling through time. Three stories fit and cast aside. For knowing no end in sight. All our splendor be black in silence. Our surrender rests on reverie. Slowly drifting down into twilight, left to sifting through fading memories. Know our places for what is wordless. Evanescent, this writing on the wall. Brother, stay this descent to madness. Come and save us, catch us before we fall. Riding home, riding home, finding home. Don't lose hope. Like broken angels, wingless, cast from heaven's gates. We only fly when falling, falling far from grace. Our lives a message in a bottle cast to sea. Quick to their ends, our candles burn until we're free. In the rain to light and darkness fade. Yes, time circles endlessly. All these chains drawn to the flame, to rise from the ashes to begin. We first must see the end. One brings shadow, one brings light. Two-tone echoes tumbling through time. Restore wasted and cast aside. For no end inside. One brings shadow, one brings light. Two-tone echoes tumbling through time. Restore wasted and cast aside. For no end inside. Rock of ages, we cast the first stone. In our cages, we know now what we need. Deep inside, we're nothing more than science and sinners. In the rain, to light and darkness fade. Yes, time circles endlessly. The hands of fate train ahead, right to the edge. All things change, drawn to the flame, to rise from the ashes. To begin, we first must see the end. To the end. All things change, drawn to the flame, to rise from the ashes.
No more time to waste. No, it's not too late. Though a fleeting moment has gone. To forge ahead. As we ride again. As you turn your eyes to the stars. Another where it all begins. My chorus guiding you. Forge ahead. Tales of loss and fire and faith. Every word on our hearts engraved. In the dark you will not stray. Forge ahead till the end we face.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to episode 119 of LoreLines. Give me just a second and make sure that everyone on Discord is working. No, not at all. You refuse?
I refuse to work.
Okay.
I didn't say
I'm
anything.
kidding.
Yeah, you can't hear Meowth because Meowth wasn't talking.
Yeah, I was silent.
All right, we should be good. How is everybody today?
Barely working, but here we are.
I'm coming down
Cheers.
sick.
Oh,
Forgive
no.
me if I'm a little quiet this episode. My throat's just, ever since last night, it's been starting to hurt. It's a little better this morning, which is reassuring and a little weird, but I'm not complaining. But, c'est la vie.
Yep. I hope you feel better soon. I don't think you'll be too terribly quiet. I know Aeneas is off at DragonCon. Arden is probably asleep. And I'm not sure where Ayumi is. Probably at a con somewhere. But they might show up later. We don't know. But so last week, I want to update everyone. I thought last week was this week, and I said, "Oh, we're gonna have Synodic on." That's next week, so that's not today.
Please look forward to it.
Yes, please look forward to that.
A little longer. I got it confused too. So
It's like the Endwalker release delay, but instead of that time, you actually may be excited for what's to come.
Yeah.
oh
Hey.
my.
We were excited for Endwalker, and we were like, "What do you mean? I gotta wait 2 more weeks?"
Yep.
So, I decided that we should have just there've been a lot of theories getting thrown around online, and I thought it might be fun to have a kind of crazy speculation tinfoil hat episode. I know Meowth especially has been kind of chomping at the bit with all of your theories. Yeah, exactly.
No, chomping at the bit is like a horse metaphor. We need an asylum metaphor. Bouncing off the walls of her padded cell.
Yeah, well, Meowth has
kidding, I'm
constructed her own asylum where she lives with... How long is the document now?
We left it.
I
at,
haven't been adding much to it recently.
No, but I think I left it at. We've had like a bit of a pause because without more content, there's a limit which you can reach, and I've been more inclined to share more with the people in the server instead of,
It's all coming together.
keeping it. No, but it makes sense. It makes sense more to me because some of the people in the server are also coming and to the same kind of thread of thought that I followed. So it's easier for me to explain some things when people are already getting into that sort of mindset than explaining the whole thing, because it would be crazy. But I mean, it's already crazy, but you get what I'm trying to say.
I
So
love it.
we
I love the
left
crazy.
it at two. we left it at 273 pages. So there's that. Like I said, you can anyone can ask me for the unholy file, as we've taken to call it.
We gotta push it
because-
and hit 300.
Yeah, we do, but likely we're going to hit that. We're going to hit that one come the next patch. But
Oh my, yes.
The next patch, I feel like, is going to be this huge bombshell, regardless of what happens. It could be like, we're going to talk about
Yeah.
gardening for 6 hours, and everyone will be like, oh my god, what is happening? And yeah, we are due for a live letter announcement for the first live letter. I am expecting it at PAX, and I know I had mentioned it. I know the dev team, or rather the scenario team, is going to PAX Australia. Super sus about that, because they're only going to be there for a day, and I'm like, there's literally no reason to fly the scenario team to Australia for a day. What are you doing? What are you planning? What research?
Yeah,
are
leaving
you
PAX
doing?
Australia is just a day. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it makes-
very, very interesting.
it would make sense for them to start gathering stuff from Australia to work on Mercedia.
I agree.
It would make sense, even though my stance on it, that I believe Mercedia would be 9.0. But it doesn't really hurt them in any way or shape to start already. It's like, okay, we're here. We're going to take a chance.
Right. I mean, I assumed that we were going to get Mericidia this expansion back when Endwalker dropped, because I was like, there's nothing in the New World.
Indeed.
Why would we go there? I would love to go there, but there's literally no reason to go to the New World, and they kind of made one up.
They found one. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and Vane, exactly. The latest announcement of a new 24-man Savage, separate from any other content, meaning it's brand new, brings with it more lore. Exactly. There's lore attached to everything in this game. And I have always said there's almost no side content in 14. Like,
No.
I was struggling to think of some. And I think...
Gold Saucer, maybe. Even though you
No,
still have to
not
go
even-
there to meet Godbear.
Yeah, not even the Gold Saucer, because it's tied to Godbert and the Mandervilles. Yeah, what's
Yeah.
side content? Exactly.
Exactly.
And I thought of like one thing, and I was like, this is side content. And then it slipped away, and I was like, I can't remember what it was. It's that hard
You were
to
probably
think of what's side
mistaken
content.
anyway.
I know. So, yeah. At any time, anything can get pulled into the MSQ, as we've seen happen with the Crystal Tower. We've seen it happen with everything pretty much in this game. And now with... oh, Jesus. What am I thinking? Help me.
I
How?
cannot help you.
I'm beyond help. Clearly. Anyway, but it's just it's something that people are like, and I've been bitten by this twice, where it's like, oh, I don't. Yeah, squadrons, kind of. Yeah, the relics are definitely MSQ lore relevant, because especially the Heavensward relic. If you've not done it, do it. Yeah, exactly. The Heavensward relic, we're basically, how do I put this?
Athena with light.
Yeah, we're basically being Athena light. Or we're gonna create a being by collecting all these souls, mashing them together into a weapon. What is this anima thing? I don't know. Keep going. It's kind of horrific going back and seeing how much soul shit we've done throughout the expansions, and they just kind of toss it around. They're like, oh yeah, it's souls, it's no big deal. And we get to Alexandria, and we're like, oh my god, they're doing things with souls. That's so horrific. And, we've been doing it all along.
Stuffs 8 anima looks weapons into my bag currently, so no one notices the souls in them.
Yeah, right.
Oh, goodness.
Don't mind.
I
my little
do-
I
soul
made
pet.
that soul
I-
to live in a weapon, so that's fine, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I use my glamour is basically the penultimate state of the White Mage Heavensward relic. So I was like, okay,
I will-
it's not complete here, but
You can take Thyrus from my cold dead body. I will never give up Thyrus.
It's a good one.
But what people were mentioning about this 24 Savage content, it immediately brought me back to Bosnia, and I was like, excellent. I was like, I'm not expecting them to resume Bosnia in a continuation, because I do believe our MSQ is the continuation, quote unquote, of Bosnia. Evil is all that, you know? So, but I don't expect a continuation of the Bosnia storyline. However, I have been eyeing it and the field notes because it's quite interesting to read all these notes with our current context.
I mean, yeah.
But I was, but the thing I was basically saying is, again, we're going back to even if it's a gameplay reference, we're going back to Shadowbringers, and we're going back to Bosnia. In like, you think of 24-man Alliance Raid Savage content, and immediately you think of the Luron Regina. It's like, okay, we're definitely going back to Shadowbringers.
Thematically and
metaphorically,
metagaming like.
And you say that Bosnia's storyline's done, and Eli brings up a good point. Even ARR relics with the Zodiac Atma, the ARR relics were about the Zodiac Braves. So technically, that's the start of where Evilise started, was in ARR.
Yeah.
And then we get the return to Evilise raids, which leads into Bosnia. And all of those things individually are done. But they keep feeding into this like background narrative that's going on that keeps popping
and they're not
up.
Gone.
They're not gone. They're still going on.
And AC Gears and Arms says, you're playing Beastmaster continuation for Bosnia. At least a spiritual one, I could really see that happening. I think Meowth disagrees.
You know, no. It's more like, I see people saying stuff about Leon Ramhelsos. I would love to see Leon, but I doubt it's because Leon, for example, is tied to the Bosnia questline, and you can't really force the player to go through the entire questline to get a job. Maybe if it's a limited one, maybe, but I don't really see it.
This is kind of why I meant, like, spiritually. It's not literally like you must do this as a prereq, which I could see happening, but it would be a steep requirement for especially newer players who haven't done the content, on content, as it were.
However,
so I don't know.
However, I do believe that Beastmaster and the roots of it being a mix of perhaps Tural, I do see Erenville becoming more involved with Beastmaster, but if Erenville is, though, it's another story. However, but I do see something interesting about Beastmaster. It could be a mix of Tural, but the thing is that the Beastmaster technique comes from Landis, comes from Ilsebert. And it would be an excellent way to have these limited jobs unlocked, I don't know which patch of Dawnhill, as an introduction to, well, Ilsebert. You know my stance on Ilsebert and how we're going to uncloak, quote-unquote, Ilsebert. But, shout out to Synodic. But because, like I say, Ilsebert as of now, it's really difficult. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's really difficult that we go into Ilsebert and unlock Ilsebert as it is and cloud it as it is on our time, because we've made so many forays into Ilsebert. We've got pieces of the map of Ilsebert that we don't really have in map, but we've been there. So we've got Whirlid, we've got kind of like the Burn, we got Bosnia, so it's a complicated thing. They could, if they wanted, they could, but for them, it's easier to do Ilsebert on another timeline, which is my speculation for 8.0. But yeah,
also,
so my point was basically Beastmaster would be a great way to introduce more Ilsebertian stuff.
Yeah. Also on the topic of crazy theories. Oh God, where was I going with this? Oh, brain, please. My brain is deserting me. It'll come back. Your brain
and mine are on the same wavelength here.
Because I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm thinking about Ilsebard and blank.
So I guess I'll hop in and I'll say that so I saw Lion and I was like immediately we're getting Beastmaster, and then they didn't announce it for like another 2 years. But my thought was, as obvious as it would be to have Lion be our Beastmaster trainer, just because one, he was kind of taken with us, and two, he was a Beastmaster. I feel like the times in the past we've seen that they haven't followed that thread up, and he doesn't use a whip, so he's kind of this fake warrior. So I'm kind of like, you're a fake
Give us
Beastmaster.
Pagaga.
Yeah,
I want
give us
Pagaga as our trainer.
Pagaga. That's the
So
only
the thing about
Likelihood low, but I
Beastmaster-
want it.
The thing about Beastmaster and Aaronville answering chat, the thing about Beastmaster and Aaronville, I would really love to see Aaronville as our Beastmaster mentor, but because of Aaronville is tied to MSQ and late MSQ, it's not likely, because it would mean you have to play the entirety of Dawn Trail to get to the point in which Aaronville gets a job. So it's
They have
not.
tried.
Get a job.
They've tried not to lock new jobs behind content anymore, especially after like how much it sucked getting 250 and to Heavensward before you could pick up those jobs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's why the thing about Aaronville is kind of like,
And
well,
I that makes me really sad though, because I really liked the new jobs being in the new city. So like Red
I did.
being in Alamigo would have been amazing.
Yeah, it's sort of a two-edged sword. One, you have access to it earlier. The other, and it undermines the story value and the impact a little bit. No red mage pun intended.
AC says, "Isn't Beastmaster an exception to the rule?"
No idea yet.
Yeah, we don't know.
I mean,
I'm
it's
trying to
a
remember the
lot-
prereqs.
God, AC Gears. If we get so if we just go out into the field and there's just like this feral child out there, he's like, "Give me meat and I'll teach you beasts." I mean, like, that would be amazing. I would love a cow reference. Meowth, you're not allowed to comment on that. You haven't played 6 yet. You need to play 6. You have it.
But I know the character because of this video program, yeah. So.
Okay. Which unfortunately, I heard that's shutting down.
It's shut down in February. The one shutting down now is Brave Exvius, which is sad because it's one of my other. It was a great game. It was great. The storylines were really neat, nice music. Yeah, and I'm left with no CGI language and hope. Curses. But
sadly booting up for 13 again.
I got Ramsay in CGI before it shut down, so I'm happy.
Nice.
I would love a Gao reference. Either Gao or Keistis. Either one. I don't
Hope,
know.
do you know that there's a CGI?
awesome.
You know that there's a CGI Celes in Brave Exvius?
Yes, I know.
Okay.
And she has the dress, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm waiting for my CGI Celes who has like the green spandex leotard and the big white cape. That's the one I want.
I think she was a skin in the City of Paramia. Both games, but if you have the chance to check the story of the City of Paramia in YouTube, because they uploaded the entirety of the MSQ, so to speak, do it. The storyline is really, really, really great, and I picked some Dissidia threads in the possible arc, which I mean would make sense because Dissidia is based on the world of Final Fantasy 1. So yeah.
That's mildly terrifying, but okay. Because that puts it in line with Stranger of Paradise, which is just like absolutely insane. Where it's like, yeah,
but it's insane, but it's insane, but it's actually a good game, the Strangers of Paradise. And I went a bit through the data log of Strangers of Paradise and the whole thing about Lufenia, and it's loaded. It's basically, you can easily tie the story of preservation to the Lufenians, and that would be really scary, considering what the Lufenians can do.
Mm-hmm. Guy speaking with beavers. Guy is hilarious, and I love Guy.
Guy is great.
Guy is like Galuf light. And my only regret from Dawn Trail finally getting to see Galuf was that Galuf didn't solo everything. And then I remember back to ARR when he sank the entire Isle of Val and killed a Mariloth. And I'm like, oh wait, he did solo everything.
He did solo everything.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Fucking funny.
So, Meow, I know there was someone, I think it was Tetsu, tried to summon you earlier. And he said, okay, because he was speculating before the stream started that we can start with canon, which is canon says the enemies in Alexandria's virtual world come from the same game as the twinning. So, what are your thoughts about that?
I'm reading the entirety of the comments. You know my opinion on that. It's in the unholy file, and I brought. I think it
I
was
believe
last
Mouth's
night.
opinion is crazy flailing.
Yeah, no,
I'm kidding.
no,
Please expound.
but at this point, I'm just. I'm going. At this point, I'm going to do the Madcap, so I save you guys from the Madcap allegations. I will bear the burden, just like Ardyn bore the Star Scourge in his body.
I need a tinfoil hat to just stick it on your little avatar.
So, yeah. So the thing about the twinning, I've been eyeing the twinning with great suspicion ever since Shadowbringers, because precisely of the 13 monsters. It's basically a section. So twinning, that's the name itself as of now, as by Dawn Trail is loaded, because Dawn Trail is about twins, siblings, interconnections. Well, the concept of twinning, in fact, it's there, and, well, the concept of twins is inevitably going to be tied to that of Gemini, so you know how it goes. But aside, setting that aside, the twinning, I saw the behemoths from 13 there. I was like, cool, it's a behemoth. And then I got to the second section. I remember back then, and there was a fucking Sith. It was one. It was not just one regular Sith. It was one of the Undying Sith. So, for those who don't know what the Undying is, they're basically kind of like the super bosses of 13. You fight them in as part of the side quests, basically, and they're basically the most powerful of Sith. That instead of roaming around, wallowing in their pain and suffering, instead the Undying are basically kept going. They keep going out of spite out of the gods and out of the people who are still alive while they're doomed to suffer. So it's a whole mess. But it's interesting that they are this one, Mithridates, is basically one of the Undying. And so yeah, it's if you know the 13 lore, it's not a choice that you're going to be able to ignore. And then you get to Alexandria and fight 3 of these things. 3 that jump at you in one of the alleys, and it's like
in case it's not clear that you're stronger now.
No, but really, it's they jump at you, and it's basically tripling down on the twinning, and that's one of the reasons. There's many, but that's one of the reasons in which I'm like,
wait. So we went to the first, and we got the twinning, and then we went to the Unlost World, and now we have the tripling. I'm kidding. Mostly.
Stop. Just.
I mean, now we're at 3. We are at 3 shards access. So, I mean, what?
Why are you doing this to me?
Evil.
So let me check out. I'm going to run a quick. If you hear ruckus, that's my cats. Again.
We are feeding Meowth. We're feeding the Meowth. We're breaking all of the rules. So you're not supposed to feed Meowth after midnight. You're not supposed to get Meowth wet. Everything's out the window.
True.
Okay, so no, Mithridates is not the Sith that transforms into Vercingetorix, which is the super boss of 13. It's another flying Sith. It's different. This one is found in. Do you guys remember Tajin's Tower? The tower that
Yes, I do.
has the literal elevator music.
I
That-
hated
Yeah,
that
yeah.
place, and I was so glad that I could skip it after we got through it.
And you immediately after through that you get to the burn. So there's that.
Yeah.
But no, it's not the final undying. It's one of them. Definitely, it's one of the marks, so to speak, that you're going to fight. So yeah, so it's and it's not just the fact that those three, they're concerning enough. Just the fact that you're seeing a Sith in 14th universe should creep the hell out of should freak the hell out of any 13th fan playing. So
I definitely saw him this time around. It was like, Meowth's going to have a brain moment over that as well.
I had a number of them actually when as I was playing Dawn Trail, because I started to see back in Urkopacha the Silver Lobos. They're Megistotarians. They are small Megistotarians from Grand Pulse. I saw Triffids in Jactyl. I saw the stupid frogs that summon their friends in Shalwani. So I kept the entire MSQ like, what the fuck? This is more 13 monsters that I've seen in the entire game. Usually you see them.
There's more than an Allag.
Around, yeah, usually you see them around Allag. You see, most of the Pulsion machinery, some certain monsters from Line Returns, yeah. But it was in Dawn Trail that I started to see it's like, okay, this is more 13 monsters I've seen together ever since Allag. So yeah. So
I feel like my kind of brainworm right now is that every time we see any significant concentration of 13 monsters, it's either in an end of the world scenario or related to time travel. I'm just like, what is happening?
which could be both if you
Yeah.
know
Not
where
very fitting.
the story may go. But
Yeah,
yes.
I-
Again, back to sorry. I actually
That's
didn't answer the question. So all this circling only to not answer the question. Welcome to my mind.
How dare you?
No, but yeah, I do believe my stance is summarized that preservation, or whoever is behind preservation, comes from the I'm going to call it the 8th Emerald Calamity era, just out of convenience, but I believe it will be way in the future after this short story. So maybe they're in a different era altogether. We're basically calling it 8th Emerald era out of convenience, because that's as far as we actually know. But yeah, I do believe they come from there. Because it's basically people who mastered the time mechanics of Alexander and the rift travel of Omega, which is basically the basis of the spell the Capman uses to bring us to the first. So it's a way of shard hopping. They also changed the timeline through that spell, and in Alexandria we're seeing so many things that actually have elegant design. Like the cobble work in Solution 9 is the same cobble work from the Labyrinth of the Ancients. And I know that the usual joke is to say, it's elegant. I'm saying, no, I don't think it's elegant, but I do believe it's elegant inspired, because the folk of the Garland Ironworks in the 8th Emerald Calamity reverse engineer Allag. That's the point.
This is the kind of unhinged speculation that I live for. Thank you.
I I mean, to me, it would make all the narrative sense in the way of if we're going for a reverse situation that they're already hinting at going backwards at reverse. Neela, I know you're really happy about this part, and this whole thing, and pulling another, like the first time we actually got a reverse in our perspective. It was Shadowbringers, and they've been basically bringing Shadowbringers to Dawn Trail in so many senses, and for them doubling down on Shadowbringers and some other hints. It tells me that we're facing a reverse, and facing a reverse in that context, it means, like for example, those who believe to be heroes may have actually turned into villains. You know,
I mean, it does fit with the whole "you die a hero, you live long enough to be a villain" concept.
Yeah,
you know?
Which was something that we actually
they were expecting. I mean, that's one of the big things about this Eighth Umbral Calamity timeline divergency thing, is they expected their whole timeline to collapse once we had quote unquote fixed things. Mm-hmm. They expected the Crystal Tower to disappear as part of this anticipated paradox. And then it didn't in 5.3, and they were actually like kind of, well, you know, the Exarch at least was kind of a little surprised by the fact.
So I want to address AC Gears and Arms. Says, when is the Alexander connection going to play into that? I want to take that, because that's
Go.
Alex.
Talk about the cat. Talk about the cat.
So Alexander never stopped playing a part into it. And I know. Yoshi P came out and he said, "Oh yeah, we're dealing with a multiverse." No shit, we've been dealing with a multiverse since Heaven's Word. If you remember, at the very end of the Alexander quest line, when you see Mide and I don't know who the other guy was, I forget.
Dion,
yeah. He's like, you know, reality strained to accommodate infinite possible futures, which means infinite timelines. And if you have infinite futures, you have infinite pasts. So at that point, we were dealing with a multiverse as soon as we summoned Alexander. Up until that point, you know, they were there because it happened in the future and it reverberated to the past. But I think now, finally, we're going to start seeing the consequences of that. Because that's been something that's kind of been on my mind. The 8th Umbral timeline wouldn't be possible without Alexander.
And not just in the sense of they had to unlock the secrets of Alexander in order to send the Crystal Tower to the past of the first.
Correct.
More than just that.
Yeah, it's just by Alexander existing, it exists in every timeline, and it allows every timeline to exist. Otherwise, we would have changed our own history instead of just creating our own timeline.
Yeah, AC Gears and Arms says, imagine an Electro Alexander instead of the steampunk one. And it's not exactly impossible for other primals to exist on other shards, like the Contra Memoria or Eden.
I mean, we've seen that with...
Eden primals. And Electro Alexander would be fucking lit.
It would be terrifying.
Oh, absolutely. Such a thing, if we see such a thing, I would expect it to come after we learn some either... limitations and problems, or possibly some very dark things about Electro. Hey, what a segue into a theory of my own about Electro.
Oh, you mean like
don't
how
have a whole lot to back this.
You mean like how Electro is confirmed to be on the first?
Oh, the similar sort of thing from
the mysterious mithril element that channels ether.
That's basically hyperconductive.
See, to my mind, I think that's very similar, and I think it springs from the same root in the same way that corrupted crystal does. But I think, and this is again kind of madcap speculation, I think that Electrope is different. I think it is a problem. I think it is the reason that the lightning was getting worse and worse, and they mined more and more Electrope, and then they could convert the lightning, and yet it was getting worse, not better. I think that, and I couldn't say who would do such a thing, what would cause it, but I think Electrope is the problem. Like the fact that, Yassulani didn't have horrible constant storms until Alexandria and its little dome appeared, and now there is no true day there because it's so dark all the time. Like, that's a huge amount of Electrope. Looking at Everkeep, that's a huge amount of Electrope.
Not just that, but
And
it's
then,
in
of
the
course, the
ground.
Electrope strike itself. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And a huge amount on the ground, which it had been scarce once upon a time, and it may have been simply just a matter of finding it, but I don't think so, personally. I think Electrope is sus as hell. Anyway, that's my Madcap theory on Electrope. Also, the fact that we don't seem to have... Because the thing about Electrope is it cannot use other kinds of ether. It can only use Yeah?
That
Well,
sounds
good. Yeah.
spoilers.
Oh no. Well, I'll get there. I'll get there soon. Hopefully, we're progging well through M3S right now. So
Okay. No, I'm just saying that it's.
there may be more
that's-
to it. That's good to know.
There is more to it. It's just that we're
Very
trying to
well.
keep you unspoiled.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. But well then I won't continue that line any further. I'll worry about that later.
I'm just kind of like after I found out, and this is canon, there is Electrope on the first. After I found that out, and it was like, but it's not the same. It doesn't channel lightning ether, but it does the same thing, and it makes me wonder.
Much like Corrupted Crystal.
Yeah. It just makes me wonder if it takes the primary element, like the primary ethereal charge of wherever it is,
An area,
and
yeah.
that's what it uses.
That would make sense, actually. Here's another thing to chew on a little bit. You little Galulja, our little blue friend, can pick up pieces of Electrope and be like, this one converts to water, this one converts to fire. Because I recently rewatched that scene, and he just looks at him and he's like, yeah, this one does this one does that. What the fuck?
Well, how's he know that?
He's a kid. He has to have some kind of a knack because, like, other people can't necessarily tell.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I don't know. There's a lot of questions about Gululja. Like, for me, I think he's a clone. Which means,
I'm on board with that as well.
Yeah, which means
Yeah, I would
that
say same.
Alexandria has cloning technology, the same as the Allegans did. And I would
Alexandria.
I would venture to say that the Alexandrians are actually more advanced than Alleg.
I think they have a different direction of their technology, and in that direction, they are definitely more advanced. But there's other things they haven't figured out as much as well. Like it's sort of comparing apples and bananas.
That's true.
Of course, the banana is the longest fruit.
They're more
but it's not as thick as
they're more technologically advanced, but they're not as etherically advanced.
I think that's accurate. I think that's the best way to put it. Actually, well said.
I mean, one reason may well be because they've been relying on the basically ethereal converter that's Electrope so much that they haven't been developing their own magic capabilities, ethereal manipulation.
Exactly.
They rely so
hasn't
much on
been a primary.
Electrope.
Hey, Stray Snowfox, thanks for following.
Hey, thank you.
I have to say real quick, Quantum Delta says, side note, clones are easy to genetically manipulate for extra abilities.
Yeah.
Yes. I also think, so I tend to approach things from a narrative construction standpoint because I build and dissect narratives. That's kind of my primary thing and my aim on stories. And having the bit where Galulja comes to Tuliolal, and people are like, we don't know about this guy. And, Lamati stands up and says, hey, he's a kid. He's his own person. You'll treat him as a kid. Having that be the thing he is starting to grow into and accept, and then finding out he's a clone and having to grapple with, am I truly my own person, would be interesting from a narrative perspective.
I
Will
would
it happen?
love that.
I don't know, but it would
Yeah.
be fascinating, and it would be so good because he could eventually say, no, I'm more than the circumstances of my birth, which is a theme I really like in stories.
I think that would be really good, and it would be really good to develop his character. My question is, he is still basically a kid. He doesn't know anything about leading a nation, and the system in Alexandria recognizes him as ruler.
Yeah.
But in essence, what we have created is a puppet state of Tuliyola.
Yep.
That Wook Lamont.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
Rules.
it's not even out of ill intent that Wooklamat is doing this. She cares about her nephew. She wants to help him. She's not going to try and take him over, but he's instinctively going to be kids try to please the adults that are taking care of them. This is a natural instinct because we're animals that want to not die, So it's intentional or not, it is very much a puppet state, and that should be interesting.
And then AC Gears, asks the prudent question that is absolutely next. Why did Zeralja make a son to begin with? And I think that
I would
has a lot
love to know the answer to this.
I think it has a lot to do with legacy. I think he wanted a legacy to leave, and he had no one to leave his legacy to. And I think
My crackpot theory, he's so convinced he should have had a blessed sibling, should have had two heads. He was like, if I clone myself, my clone will express the second head correctly, and then he didn't. And he was like, you're not my son. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's one angle I could see at least.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. No idea. I'm excited to find out.
No,
though.
but yeah, it's
definitely in the future.
It's a really interesting point. The fact that out of kindness, so to speak, we have basically conquered a nation. So,
I mean, how many times have we done that out of kindness?
So many times, because, well, it's how this is our side of the story, and we are presented as the heroes of this story. But many of the things that the Warrior of Light has done are very questionable from in terms of influence and freedom.
Yeah.
It's very questionable. And there's people, of course, that's going to be reassuring you, such as Fortunault, which I called bullshit the moment I read. This is for the. I'm really mad about that still, because this is from the end of the Endwalker role quest, and it happens things, and then Fortunault goes and has the goal to say that the Guardians had no claim in trying to reclaim Corvus, Locus Amena.
It's literally their ancestral homeland.
Because it's been 800 years and the land belongs to no one, and I'm like,
That's not how legacy works. People are always going to be tied to the place of their origin.
But
anyway,
but
if you have
but besides that, it's even if you were right, even if you could say no, the land belongs to no one. Okay, fine, but why do you guys, the Sharelians, by the way, why do you guys and the player base glorify the retaking of Alamigo and Doma? If the land belongs to no one, then by extension it should belong to the Guardians.
This one's just as occupied. Yep.
At least don't be a hypocrite.
Returning back to AC Gears and Arms had a question. Doesn't that contradict with what he said about being a father? The only thing I recall about him saying about being a father was, "I am not your father," and then he said something about, "I wanted to leave you a legacy," but it's very disjointed. There's actually a lot of this around Zeralja's character. It's one of the weaker points of Dawn Trail to me. One of the things I didn't care for as much is Zeralja felt like he was all over the place. He didn't feel like a consistent character. Now, again, there could be internal motivations that we just don't know about yet. This may not be inconsistency. This may just be yet to be revealed. But to me, it feels like his arc is over, and it feels like it could have been more satisfying. And again, this is a fairly minor complaint. On the whole, good. Weak areas here and there. I kind of expect that with a maybe less experienced writing team. It's just you're not going to learn how to get good at a thing unless you do it, and if you're not good at it, you're not going to be perfect. We're human. We're all human, That's just my take on it.
You remember my tirade about Zeralja? What was it? 5 or 6 days ago, I was like, "This is what he should have been." If it were me.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. How could I be a father when my own spurned me? Which is, again, there is zero evidence of Glul Jaja spurning any of his kids. The only thing I can read in is that he thought he should have been special because he was natural born, and he wasn't special, and therefore he was abandoned. One of the things this X-Pack tackles real sneakily is a lot of extremism and a lot of what's the word, far out sort of political ideology, and says, hey, come on back into the fold. You don't want to be like this. You're not happy like this.
I would say that yes, it does present a lot of it, but it doesn't really go into it and address it. It's just kind of like, yeah, this thing is there.
I'll make a video on it.
Yeah. You need
I'm
to.
I've
Do
been
still
it.
of the
watching it
opinion-
through. I mean, because this is kind of relevant to me. Like, when you're part of a group that certain people are like, all these people should be killed, you kind of pay attention to that. So
Yeah.
details.
not
So
good.
it's something I keep an eye on, and just sort of kept sticking out to me. Possibly also because my sister is always watching videos and sending me videos about this, and I'm like, I don't like political stuff. That's enough of that. So you can't get away from it.
Right.
I love my sister, but I don't know how she could stand to how she doesn't go crazy. We'll just say.
Yeah. But yeah. That's kind of where I was like, I think Zoralia should have really been. This should have been a reaction to the final days. It should have been. We got so
Yes.
hit so hard from the final days, and we took so many losses because we were not ready into Leolol that we need to be ready for the next threat. That should have been his motivation, and that should have been his kind of call to arms and saying we need to be ready, and the only way to be ready is to never stop conflict.
Agreed. Yeah,
Yeah,
to have a constant state of readiness. I think that would have been a really good way to take it.
Yeah.
What we actually got felt like so it's possible when you're writing and creating a story and creating a narrative to have a character say my motivations are this, but actually have their motivations be something else. And you can do that and make it interesting and make it, engaging. But that isn't what I experienced in Dawn Trail. He said one thing, he showed another, and they felt disconnected. It didn't seem to have a logical base under it. Again, this base may yet be forthcoming, but at the moment I don't see it, and
I mean, he's
as
dead
I
now.
said,
So.
I feel like the story is kind of over. It would have to be, again, the only way we can explore his story at this point is through Galulja, whether as his son or as his clone. So it could still come out, but like, I don't know. We'll see. Little more logical connection between, especially for his unconscious or his unspoken motivation. Let us understand. Like, again, we can understand it and be like, oh, well, he was just an entitled prick who thought that he should have been given everything because he was natural born. But they never explained that. They just had this, my own father spurned me thing, which when we walk into the throne room and first meet Glul Jaja, and he's sparring with Estinian, and as soon as he sees Wuklamat, he stops the duel and says, I would receive my darling daughter. So I don't know. It's not what we see.
Right. Like, he just didn't get treated the way he wanted to be treated.
Exactly. And I see Gears and Arms says, playing Dawn Trail, I always had the feelings Zoralja's motivations were superficial, if not outright dishonest. I have to agree, but like,
Yeah.
his underlying motivations just felt like they came from nowhere to me. Is the only thing.
Agreed.
So I don't know.
Still, even if it was something that's it was all Zoralja's perception. Perception is a really important thing when it comes to oversight. So
I agree, but we need to see that, especially if they're going to dive into this RSite.
I
would
meant
love
it.
to see-
I meant it as in. Sorry, I meant
Go
it's
ahead.
basically. Sorry, it's basically perception as his own perception, not affected by oversight, could already be misleading. Coming into contact with the oversight could have entirely doomed him. That's what I tried to.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. That's the thing, because it's been in the vaults, but he's the head of the Landsguard. He might have access or have come into contact with it. Certainly, Cyrilja, his little toady, was able to go and steal it during the ceremony. But like, we should have seen hints of that already, like specific hints, not just like me saying one of my crackpot theories being like, has he already been corrupted by the Arasite? Because his motivations seem like a hot mess.
Right.
It's interesting too because he before the Orasite, he was kind of you see the other the Bunawa guy Zorilja kind of almost pulling the strings with Zoralja, but then Zoralja's like
The only
"Fuck
thing I
you,"
saw
and-
was him thinking he was pulling the strings, and Zoralja
Yeah.
was like, "That's funny. I'm gonna kill you the first chance I get."
Yeah.
Like that was very well laid out. And Quantum Delta says we don't actually get much heartfelt interactions between Zoralja and Gulu Jaja, and I think that's kind of another weakness in the story. Us seeing what their dynamic was like would have been helpful, because perhaps what could have happened is 3 years ago when Zoralja took over the Landsguard, they could have become distant because now it's this ruler and, head of army relationship, and there's not room for family. That would have helped me understand. They could have had it be like, oh, well, I was very close to the head of reason, and now I feel bereft, and only my less favorite parent is around. We could have seen literally anything about his mother, assuming he has one. It would be really nice to know if he has a mother or not. Like, Wilklamat's nursemaid was a not insignificant part of the story. Where the fuck was his?
Right.
I'm kind of bitter about that too. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's one of my. I'm not going to call it a theory, but my impression that Gulol Daja may have his own skeletons in the closet himself, and it could be something. It could be something really innocent, like perhaps try to. He wanted a trueborn son of his own, and eventually went like, okay, I can just adopt my kids and they would be the same. But it could be something really, really innocent that may have actually turned things worse for the family. But this is just themes,
like,
basically.
You can't even make the joke that, hey, I'm not your dad, but I'll raise you because they have the regulators.
Oof. AC Gear Arms brings up something I actually want to mention and have thought about as well. How old do you believe Zorelja is before and after the time bubble? Before the time bubble, he gives pretty young to me, like not a teenager, but probably mid-20s at the outside. And then, of course, 30 years of building, and we don't know how long he was before they... So he enters the gate of the Golden City, and then the dimensional fusion happens, but some amount of time passes in there, and we don't know how long that is. So it's hard to say. But what I will say is that his emotional and mental maturing seems to have kind of frozen in his mid-20s. Like, dude sat there in Alexandria and stewed and didn't have any resolution and was bitter and mad and just went further and further and further down this... what I would call sort of an emotional, instead of an information silo, sort of an emotional despair and bitterness silo. He just fell down and down and down and couldn't find his way out because he didn't have that contact to family. He was isolated. It's not something I can give a solid number to, but I feel like the actual maturing he did in there was basically non-existent. Now he has an answer to all of his quote-unquote problems. Instead of having to grow or improve, he just solves it with Electro.
Yep.
Which I think is another theme of this story. Like, hey, sometimes the easy way to solve a problem isn't the best way to solve a problem.
Which, actually, you could relate that to Zodiark as well.
Absolutely. And AC Gears and Arms, that's kind of one of my potentially Madcap, potentially not theories, is that, maybe Galil Jaja has... I mean, there's visibly two sets of genes there. There's, two halves, so it's not impossible.
I mean, could be.
I did find it... Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I did find it interesting. They use the term sired very specifically, which usually means that there's a dam or another counterpart to that. But, again, we are speaking to the head of Resolve. It could be that... the head of Resolve was the sire, and, whatever. We don't want to get into too much detail here. I'll start talking about Bakul Jaja. I mean, what?
I'm sorry.
I'm still so mad I missed that. I'm heartbroken I missed that episode. I was, like, right up my alley.
No, sorry. I'm looking at what AC Gears at Arms posted. Endless spleen. Spleen.
Oh my god.
Listen to me. I can't.
I mean, yeah, he kind of just... The citizens went from, we're opposing preservation and we don't want this dimensional fusion to, we gotta stop Zoralja. And that says a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is some... I mean, I don't really know. I feel like Dontrell is going to, especially in the patches, is going to be playing around with our perception of the story itself and who is... and I think it's going to carry on, especially in the next expansion. I do think it's possible. It carries on the fact that our perception of the world is going to be turned upside down Like, there's already upside down stuff going on in Don't Realize It Is. So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I think we're going to see repercussions from this for a while. At least I hope so. Because I feel like what we've seen, I feel like a lot has happened, but not a lot's been explained. And so we don't really, we can't appreciate the repercussions of
Did
what's
you
happened
mean
this year.
Final Fantasy 13 too?
Not yet,
Because
but,
that's how-
but okay.
That's
all
how
right.
you describe it in the video.
So let's go down that hole, I guess. So yeah, now that they're introducing artifacts and I saw the Historia Crux and I was like, okay, and there's 14 artifacts now. Which just screams 13 too, and I'm like, are we gonna find all of these? Does each one lead to a different shard? Like, what is going on? I mean, how?
Even if some of them are rejoined or whatever.
Yeah, even if some of them are rejoined, we'll just go back to a time period before they were rejoined, because I feel like kind of everything's on the table now, which it makes it hard to speculate and say this is what's going to happen, because back in ARR you couldn't do that because we didn't know.
It was too early in the cycle.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
where we are now.
Exactly, and so pretty much everything is possible at this point.
I
And,
I went to check COP, and you may pat yourself in the back. There are actually 14 artifacts in 13.2.
Oh my God, you're kidding me, right?
No.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
No, sorry. Give me a moment.
Yeah.
Maybe I count wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
yeah,
6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. Okay, 13. But there was
13.
another replicated. Sorry, 13.
Okay.
13.
Well, don't scare me like that. And yeah, I will agree with that.
I mean, there could be 14 if you count the master artifacts, but it would be like a 14th kind of artifact, which is the one I believe we have. It's a master artifact. So
Venera asks if the artifacts in 13 have to do with dimensional travel.
Technically,
you want this one, Meowth?
It's complicated, but yes and no.
The artifacts the artifacts are anachronisms. In 13.2, they're the keys that open the time gates to a specific time period and place. So in a sense, yes, they are space-time both travel, since they're basically the coordinates they're basically kind of like the coordinates to a place in a different place in another time, and the artifact is tied to. It takes the shape of something from that age, but it appears in a different age. That's not.
So it plays off of the literal meaning of anachronism, which an anachronism is something out of time, a thing or an object, whatever that is, out of place in time.
More bootstrap paradoxes. Those have been driving me nuts. There's a bunch of them in 14.
As a note, ACGs and ARMS, I don't think Aslan was a time traveler, but
agreed.
I do think that the summoning spell, it's like the blueprint. They reverse engineered the aura site in the Grail. And I say they because I suspect that Hades may have played a part. He knows the spell, so I suspect that he may have had a part on the whole dissecting the thing. So it may make sense to me that it would be a joint effort. But I don't think Asam is a time traveler. I do believe, however, that Asam did store their memories, not memories per se, visions, because we know they had precognition, and the aura site, aside from other things, work as an Oracle drive. I don't know if you want to go down the Oracle drive.
This is the Madcap episode.
Yeah, this is the day to do it if you're going to do it.
And yes, Vanilla, exactly.
So in 13.2, the seeress of the patterns, Yule, has the power. Well, she's seeress, so she can have visions of every change in the timeline, which didn't happen as often as it would before the ending of 13.2 because of reasons, because of Electro was stupid, basically. And she used to store her visions in a device that's called an oracle drive, which is basically a carcass which amplifies the visions stored in a tiny crystal core, which by structure it really resembles a lot to the Grail, to what the Grail is. Basically a carcass amplifier with a crystal core. It's different in shape, but in terms of concept, it's very similar. So what?
No, sorry. Quantum's comment. We don't explicitly know that Azem had precognition. Yeah.
We do know. Actually, it's in Pandemonium, the Pandemonium quest.
I disagree. But we do know that there is precognition echo. We see it with Mikoto.
I stand by this theory because Themis in the Pandemonium quest casually mentions it, and his words are very much like, usually Asim's prophecies are not tend to be a bit more cryptic than this. So it's implied to be, the way I read that, as something that the convocation is actually fairly used to.
Yeah. Again, could be memories. I don't know.
Do you really want to fall into your own trap of the loop?
I hate it either way.
Ow.
I hate it either way.
But the thing about the Oracle Drive is that it is complicated. So before Caius, the Guardian of Yule, was a thing, because he originally was one of her normal servants. The seers would have a Lucy task with the focus of storing and recording the visions of the seers. So only very select people could access to the prophecies of the seers. In 13.2, this is kind of diminished, because by the end of 13, everyone has access to magic instead of the very selective Lucy before, that no one else had magic before than Lucy. And well, in 13.2, it's become something everyone can tap into because of reason. So that's one of the reasons that make me think of an Oracle Drive in regards to the Grail, and the whole thing about it reacting to the invocation through Asim's crystal, which is made from Emetzel's from Emetzel's ether. So it's kind of interesting in this context to think of Asim as Seers Yule and Emetzel as Caius, the immortal guardian of the seers, tasked with recording and remembering the prophecies and visions of Yule as you know the timeline. I mean, I don't expect it to be a one-to-one, but there's threads that I see there, and I have to mention them.
Sorry, there's Monty Python in the chat.
Oh, okay. That's culture. That's culture.
I'm also sitting and thinking, Meowth, you said something about Etro, and my brain's gears started turning. I told you I'm very normal about lizard men. And now I'm thinking of like Etro as the child that was like cast aside, shunned, and given no gifts, and that's certainly what Joralja thinks he is. Whether or not he actually is, that's how he feels.
Yeah.
And then does stupid shit and fucks everything up. Yeah.
To get his father's attention.
To get his father's attention.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And we know, quote unquote, Heidelin is very much a stand-in for Etro, and that's not a compliment at all. At all.
It's an important role that somebody had to play.
Yeah.
No, but Etro is basically the entity that most fucked up the world of Babylon of Crystallis, so it's definitely not a compliment in terms of stuff. And of course, if we go by Etro and all that, and there's the whole thing of Thaleia, and if you go,
God.
if you take the Thaleia thread into the Etro reference in Zoralja, and the whole thing dealing with Orasite,
Shit.
yeah, it's all tied together.
I think
It's
Heidelin.
all coming together.
I think Heidelin did the right thing for the wrong reason, just because of Ultima. But my question is, where did the concept for Heidelin originate?
That's the blueprint for
Yep.
Zodiac. That's actually designed by La
That's
Habrea.
flawed.
Yes, but
And contaminated by Ultima.
but where did Vanan get the idea for Heidelin? Is what I'm trying to say. It was built on the blueprint
from
for Zodiac.
us. From
Yeah,
us.
but where did we get it?
Yeah.
From her.
Yeah.
Who got it from us. Who got it from her.
So the whole thing with 13.2 is it deals with paradoxes and fixing paradoxes. And we've got several paradoxes in 14 right now. Yeah, it's called a bootstrap paradox, where there is no origin for the information. It just exists. And it exists because it exists. So I think...
Spoiler alert, in 13.2, we don't really solve any paradox. We just collapse. It basically collapsed.
Well, the paradoxes
every
are technically
timeline.
gone now.
Yeah, we basically collapse every timeline into itself, and it wrecks the world. So
Yeah. And, Alyssa returns to being dead, where she belongs.
That's right.
yeah. But that was her own fault, to be fair.
Yes, it was her fault she lived again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 13 gods are idiots, basically.
They're
Mostly Etro, but yeah.
no, Electro is outright stupid and very questionable methods. All in all,
I have some like sympathy for that, because like being created and then immediately rejected by your creator I don't feel good, you know. So I do I agree with what she did? No, I think it was maybe a little dumb. Do I understand where she was coming from? Yeah, I kind of do.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but again, the gods of the Crystallis are very much so. They're actually very similar to the concept of Greek gods, in the sense that they pretty much screw up humanity because yes. No, I mean not because yes. It's a different. They
How do these
basically
humans even work?
that was really
exactly.
and it's basically a big. It's a long story.
I'm gonna take a few of them apart and see how they work.
It's a long story. It's so the gods of the Fabulana Crystallis verse, they're jerks, but it's hard to say they have bad intentions. It's a completely
They're
different
very
morality.
human in their own ways.
Yeah, it's a whole different morality. Don't try to explain the fallacy and the gods with good and evil. You can only say they're jerks, but it's basically a whole different morality. So yeah.
I think what's his name from the first game was evil. Yeah, exactly.
Barthandalus.
Barthandalus, yes, he was evil.
Well, Barthandalus
Birdie.
is a jerk, but yeah. But you have to consider too that Barthandalus was the one who had the most connection with humans in his role as different guises of the Primer. So if he picked up human traits, then it's because of that interaction. But it wasn't the best human traits he could have picked. But
Yeah.
But it makes him more closer to humanity, but in a bad way, because he also knows how humans operate and how to mess with them. Whereas
Some of the
usually the
negative
aspects,
aspects.
but yeah. So I don't know how on time we are. Do you want to discuss the interviews and all that stuff?
We can talk about the interviews. We can start by saying interviews are not canon.
Yep, that's true. They're also very subject to retcons because it's just based on not only what they know at the time, but also like things they may not be able to reveal yet.
Yeah, I still remember the whole interview when Yoshi P was saying, "Oh yeah, it's all a giant time loop. There's no multiverse," and now he's like, "There's a multiverse." And I remember being really mad because I was like, the game says there's a multiverse. What are you saying?
Literally, we literally have multiverse.
Right. So
I think some of it might be like to get into like the concept of tropes, and like there is the trope of the multiverse versus this is a literal multiverse. I think that might have been what he was trying to push back against, but I don't actually know. He might have just been wrong.
Yeah. And yeah. With God, I can't pronounce his name. Neela, you just posted his name in chat. But the guy was pretty much like,
is that spelled right?
Monty Shane.
Yeah, where he's like, I remember the Fisher Quest, where he's like, we've had time travel for a while now. We just haven't talked about it. And I know that's a translation thing, but it still was like, excuse me, what?
It's certainly a decision that the English localization team made.
And it was approved, so I'm like, okay.
It's not that it wouldn't be the first time that some stuff has come up in translations and it's been approved. Like for example, I'm going to use another Final Fantasy as example, but the whole thing. No, I'm not going to use the usual. I'm going to use 15. The thing about the Star Scourge coming from the big ass meteor that's in the near Lestalum. So the Star Scourge is actually a bacteria. It's a disease from bacteria literally come from space. So the thing about that coming from that meteor, it's only said in the German version of 15, but it's approved and it's kind of catalogued as canon. So when sometimes we say about translation stuff, if it's approved, you have to be perhaps skeptic, but take it into consideration. And the whole thing about Charlian, well, let's say I don't trust the Charlians.
Charlian propaganda.
We've been saying that for a long time, and I suspect we actually may be right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
I'm not at all. I mean, that one is not actually Charlian proper, but the whole thing about the unending codex, I'm going to be eyeing that damn thing like a hawk. Like, I don't trust this thing at all. There's so many oddities in there. And you know what? I think we discussed. I think I mentioned this to Cobb as well, but I discussed this with Neela, and the thing. It would be fucking cool to have someone, Ultima, starting to mess with the very interface of the game, like Frey.
Oh my god.
Man.
That would be so fucking cool. And creepy and terrifying, but yeah, it's like if you have the chance, go through the unending codex entries and see if you can spot oddities on the wording and the phrasing and concepts. There's some things that are not quite right.
Yeah.
And some things that seem to be leading you into thinking something. Yeah. And there's, of course, absolute bias.
Oh, it's super Charlan. Super. And AC Gears is right. We only got 5 new entries in the codex for the entirety of the MSQ.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me when the codex was introduced. It was at the end of Endwalker, or was it in the patches?
6.1.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
first
right after
yes.
the end of the old
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Here's this in-game resource. It's not entirely trustworthy, but you should treat it like it is.
Smile.
Smile.
Do you remember when we started to be like, this is odd? It was actually Emmet's entry, right? Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, it was. It was. We were reading it. It was like, why is this so terse? What the fuck? All the other
Yeah.
ones are so much more verbose.
He was an ancient. The end.
No, I mean, but it was after that we started to notice that there's almost like a deliberate intent in the entries to water down the bond between Amethyst and Azan. It's there. It's one of the oddities we picked up. It doesn't match. And at first, before Dawn Trail, I may have just considered it was the bias of the Unending Codex. But then Dawn Trail comes and hits you with the not subtle parallels all over the place and connections to Azan and Amethyst, and I'm like,
There's
okay,
a disconnect
I
here. I'm
there's
getting
something
two
that
different. I'm meeting mixed signals.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's weird. So yeah. So the thing about do you want to go over the whole thing about the interview?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
So there's several interviews that came out, but I think the one that everyone wants to talk about is the one where Yoshi P says the 9th. I'm just gonna let that hang for a minute. So yes, no, maybe. The truth is we don't know where Alexandria is from. It's possible that he misspoke. There's only one interview that's saying this. It's possible that he's talking about living memory itself being on the 9th, which is entirely possible. Alexandria might
we
be
had
from
already
the 9th,
long
which
since
is, yeah.
we'd already long since theorized that it may have moved from its original shard to another shard. So
Yeah.
it's like that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah, and so if my concern is if it's from the 9th and it originated on the 9th, then I'm just worried how they're going to work Vanadil into it. If they're just going to kind of make it part of history, kind of like Evilise, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It would make more sense if a version of 11 was just another shard, and we don't have access to another shard except whatever shard living memory is on. And so I was asking Arden the other day, is there a big crater in 11 somewhere that might be like this empty spot that Alexandria could fit in? We didn't find one per se, but it just kind of there's a lot of possible things that could have happened with Alexandria, and I know people are saying, oh, it's probably the simplest explanation. Yeah, but
I don't believe in the simplest explanation.
All right,
don't
I'm
either.
going to go on to record here. The rule of Occam's razor is useful in real life because real life is messy and complicated, but usually things have a simple explanation. When you are intentionally creating and crafting a narrative, that goes out the window because you are creating it what you want it to be. Now, sometimes you want to make it simple, but usually people want to add some flavor or make something a little more complex than simple surface level. Occam's razor is a useful rule for real life, and applying it to narratives is a great way to get yourself burned.
The thing about the interview is really interesting to me, though, which is the first thing that actually fried my brain in the sense of what? Because Yoshi P said the 9th, but he mentions the calamity of lightning, which
Right.
we know it's the 12th.
Yeah.
Which is
Which is such a weird thing to say.
Which is
he should know this. It's not that he's not aware.
The thing is,
especially because he directed us to the Encyclopedia Orsias to know it's in there, because it's in, the calamity of lightning is there, and the Encyclopedia Orsia would tell you that it was the one in which the 12 was rejoined. So my stance on that is it's either him misdirecting, or it could be, well, to be fair, I've been saying this is time paradox, except the paradox effect from 13.2 ever since I stepped foot into Heritage Found. So there's that. But there's different ways in which I could see this paradox effect playing out.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them would be the 12th from another timeline, which has dimension hopped if the ninth is indeed a thing. Or it could be another different timeline altogether, in which the ninth was the shard rejoined with the calamity of lightning. I don't know which one is more plausible. I'm fairly certain is just is that Alexandria is subject to the paradox effect, and that's never a good sign. but yeah. So again, I don't. But my stance on it is that, in truth be told, it doesn't make me lose any sleep over that, because if they're so glib. That's the word. Kind of
How very
about
glib.
that. How very
It's
glib.
gone now. It's gone now. Glib is gone.
Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, they got rid of it.
if they're so carefree, let's say, about speaking about which shard is from where, that tells me that unless they're being massive trolls, it's not actually so much of a plot point. Like, you could tell me this, and it's not actually going to be that relevant. And it matches with my impression that the whole thing about shard traveling is actually a massive red herring. And this is not about shard traveling. This is about time shenanigans. I'm not going to say time travel per se, but this is about time. Like, this is if this is 13.2, it's inevitable that it's going to be time related. And not just because of the Historia crux, which people could say that's me tripping balls, even though I know I'm not tripping balls. There's so much of 13.2 in Dawn Trail. It's also the fact that we're talking about Alexandria, and Alexandria is inevitably going to be tied to Alexander in this context. And we found this damn cat in the side quest of Alexandria, so you can't tell me this isn't about time.
Fair enough. And yeah, so Water 7, we've been on for about an hour. And yes, so we're talking about Yoshi P's interview where he says that Alexandria is from the 9th, and kind of inconsistencies in that, and acknowledging that developer interviews are not canon until it's in the game. So we're kind of trying to see, speculate on that. What's that mean? What could it mean that Alexandria is from the 9th? I'm perfectly willing to entertain that living memories on the 9th, 100%. But I think it's hitching a ride. But ultimately we'll see, because I really want to think that the 9th is Final Fantasy 11, and that's where the Alliance raid is going to be, and it's going to start in living memory. Because I don't see how else they're going to work the 11 raids in. Even though it's called Echoes of Vanadil, which implies that it's something that happened in the past. I don't know.
I do believe it could be something related to the past. Like,
well, here's
go, Neela.
In that final fight with Queen Eternal, she says she's connecting to a new world. This isn't going to be a dead shard, even if they still exist, which I sincerely doubt, because she's going there to try and harvest life ether from it. And that's where we see, like, the ruins of Bastok and other places like that. So, again, I don't know. Again, like, there's a couple to pick from, but it's hard to say which she could pick. I suspect it's not the one that Living Memory is currently on, unless she's going back there to drain the rest and they were just hiding in their bubble, which I doubt, but it's not impossible.
Right.
I don't know. Now I talk it through, I'm like, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say either. I have no idea. So
she fused them enough to send us to AC Gears and Arms.
Yeah.
I do. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, the thing about Vanadil, or our version of 14 of Vanadil, I do believe it's entirely possible to be the past, but it could be a very, very distant past. And I kind of thought that, like sediment, after things happen, after the world goes, and there are many transformations and all that, I could see 14 Vanadil being the original land, perhaps even before the time of the ancients, and our ether is basically kind of built above 14 Vanadil.
Mm-hmm.
If even in a meta sense, 14 was built upon 11, so
Yeah.
you can have that. So yeah, it's basically, in terms of that, 11 is the predecessor of 14. So
Yeah.
I could see Vana'diel in 14 being like the original, very original land of the past, of the precursor race to the ancients, that perhaps saw
That would
the,
be
let's say,
interesting
the
because they have.
Lucavi come.
That would be interesting though, because they have kind of the same races already in there. So it'd be like, what happened to them? Where'd they go?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if they did something like, okay, this is the fourth era or the second era that we don't know a lot about, aside from there was magic, and Evilise in the fourth era, but that was, southeastern Ilsabard. What happened in the rest of the world? So it's very possible that it's the past. Um, so we'll see. I don't know. I don't want them to burn a shard on this, but I'm just kind of spitballing that it
They
is
just-
possible.
Okay, so hear me out here. Madcap Theories is the name of the game today.
Yep.
And Adamus appears out of nowhere and is like, come into my parlor. And we wind up in Vana'diel.
I mean, it
Amazing.
wouldn't be the first time we've been seeing weird Atomus appear here and there, so it could be.
That was a
Yeah.
thing in 1.0, yes. And it also was a thing we did in the Void Quests. It'd be interesting to circle back to that and be like, well, this one was sent from somewhere else. Oh, shit.
We need to get back to
It
the
would
void
be-
quests.
It would be interesting. Depends on how they handle it, because right now we don't know how
Yeah.
they're going to handle it.
Mhm.
Like, for example, the Myth of the Realm thing happened in an entirely different quote-unquote dimension. So
God, don't get
Who
me started
knows
on the
where's-
Phantom Realm.
no, I don't really want to go into that, but regrettably, there's going to be stuff that we have to go back and check in
Mhm.
terms of, meta-narrative and all that stuff. There's another thing from the interview I wanted to address.
Yeah.
And it's more like amusing to me, because it made me pause. It's like this interview, the part in which, of course, the interviewer asks the Yoshi P asked about the whole thing about returning characters, and of course brings up Emmett. And Yoshi P's answer is basically, we don't really like to diminish the sacrifice characters have made for the Warrior of Light. Okay, right, but that's actually a trap. That's actually a trick answer. It took
Yeah.
me kind of like two reads of that, because first, it's not actually answering the question. But again, do you expect him to actually answer that question?
No,
No.
he didn't answer any questions. What are you talking about? And I will
No.
say that
No.
we've been talking for a long time about the 8th Umbral era, how Emmett Selk is still 100% alive there.
Yeah, but which actually he mentioned himself the previous interview, but which I believe, which I'm sure there's another trick to that one in particular, but I can go into that another time. But the thing about the trick question was, we don't like to diminish the sacrifices made for and the choices made for other characters to sacrifice themselves for the sake of the Warrior of Light. And I'm like, okay, but this does not apply to Emmett Selk. We kill him. He didn't sacrifice for us. That's a big difference.
If anything, we sacrificed for him and
Yeah.
took the
And-
hit.
And Quantum, we don't know, because we don't know what we did after we defeated Elidibus in Xenos' body.
I do think in the Ephemeral Calamity, he might be. Okay, my take, I'm not sure if I would call it a bet, but I think Elibus might be dead in that timeline.
The Unsundered aren't
And-
that easy to kill, don't at me. Sorry.
Yeah, but,
I'm
yeah,
opinionated on this one.
With certain technology levels, it could be done, but I do believe this is where we might get the storyline of Reborn Themis. And it would
Remind me though, Mouth. I'm sorry, because it's just I just had a little brain moment. I remember back in, and I think I remember this correctly. Back in Stormblood, at the end there, leading into Shadowbringers, I swear I remember going to this battle to fight Elidibus and Xenos' body, and I was so annoyed because we didn't even bring White Arsite with us. So like, how are we even going to deal
Yeah.
with him? So we couldn't have killed him then, even if we defeated him.
Then no, perhaps no, but we could have weakened him enough that next encounter, or I don't know. I'm kind of
It's hard to say because
thinking.
we don't know what happens then. Yeah.
No, but like first, like if preservation, quote unquote, is the result of the Garland Ironworks hairs from that timeline, and we know that as of now they do have enough technology to, well, they could fuck with certain with the Unsundered, and I'm accepting Emmett Self because he's an oddity on his own. On the when it comes to the ancients, he couldn't be contained by White Auracite, if you recall. The White Auracite was even powered by the entire science. He broke it. It couldn't hold the volume of his ether, and so there's that. So in that aspect, Hades is basically the kind of like the counter White Auracite, in terms of the Asians. So there's that. But Elidibus, I'm not so sure. Like, yeah, we needed the Crystal Tower to dissipate him, but he was really powered up by the whole heroes thing. So it was an extra plus. Without that, maybe it would have been easier to deal with Elidibus. But I really would want to see an arc of reborn Themis in that world. Considering the scenario, I'm kind of thinking it may be in the, well, I'm going to say the Eighth Emerald Calamity just out of convenience, but it's.
I want to see. Yeah. I want to see the arc about unsundered souls going into being reborn.
In general, yeah.
Yeah, just in general. I think that would be amazing, and I want to see consequences. Damn it, I want to see the consequences of our actions. And I know that we had talked about previously. You know, I want to see this horrific quest line where, you know, these kids are dying and no one knows why, and it turns out that they're using creation magic, but they don't have the ether available in their bodies to fuel it, and they're burning up their own life force to use this creation magic without knowing it.
I'm seeing people ask me about why the Garland Ironworks become the bad guys. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not sure if you want me to go down that, but it's a combination of many things actually. So I'm
just
not sure if I could.
On the very basic level, let me just add something real quick.
Okay.
They succeeded in sending the Crystal Tower to another reflection in the past. Where do you go from there? Obviously, you keep playing with your new cool powers and the things you can do. You can affect timelines. How much good could you do with that? But go on, Meowth, sorry.
So, one of the things that strike me the most, and we discussed this, Neela, is that their idea of the folks of the Eighth Emerald Calamity, their idea of restoring their world went through recovering the Warrior of Light. So they didn't think about themselves making their world better. They thought of snatching something from the past.
They literally did the same thing as the Asians. They were like, we want to go back to that time when things were good.
Yes. Midgar Stormer, okay, he's been on our side all this time, but if Hydaelyn is corrupted by Ultima, then that makes Midgar Stormer corrupted as well, because he made a pact with Hydaelyn. Pacts that's something you do with Lucavi. So there's there's not exactly the most comforting idea to have there. I could go into that into the reading of the short story, because there are interesting creepy things as well. Like, for example, Biggs the Third thoughts on the fairly wrecked Omega toy, well, the automaton, in which he muses about how it would be just simply easier to make a new one entirely rather than fix it, which is it's not the most comforting thought if you think about that.
Fair.
It's not. It's like like if you take that with with Alagan cloning, why would you just age when you can make yourself a new clone and go into a new and put and upload yourself into a new body every time? You wouldn't have the worry of dying. You just have an endless surplus of body backing,
Even if you say to yourself, well, it's unnatural and I shouldn't do this unnatural thing, sooner or later you're going to be at a breakthrough point and you're going to be old. You're going to be like, crap, I can't quit now. I just have to, just one more time, one more life, one body, real quick to finish up this. And that can easily become a pattern.
Yes. There's the whole thing about Midgar Stormer declaring himself the one who's going to teach the Garland Iron Wars crew to use the things that they learn, the Wings of Time and the knowledge of the Rift, for the benefit of their timeline. There's the whole thing too about pulling a world back from the brink. And of course, back when this short story was brought up, it was basically a good thing in our context of the story. But now, in the context of the fear of death, of fear of the end, it takes a different
such a huge
meaning.
theme.
It's like you're prolonging something. How far will you go to preserve something or to pull back something from the brink?
Here's something else. Oh, go ahead.
It's like sometimes, like, I have one of my longtime friends was a cancer nurse, and she would her, it's Cecilia, and she would often tell me that doctors make have this kind of mentality, that they would try all possible means to prolong the life of the patient, even when there's no possible salvation for them, because it's in their work ethic. It's just what they do. They can't just disconnect something. It's their kind of, doctors are programmed to extend the life of their patients as much as they can, just sometimes hoping for a miracle, and sometimes they actually make the patient suffer more than if they just let them go. So death is always a complex thing. It's difficult for humans to kind of come to terms with it, but the end is a necessary part of it, So
I do want to bring up something else as well when it comes to that timeline. I think it's easy to lose track of. People are like, oh, but Garland, they're good people. There's good, this. It's like 13 presidents down the line that they actually succeed. Those people are long dead. They've passed their work on to generations, and it's a legacy, but such things can get twisted with time. It's easy to forget that, like, oh, well, it's not actually Sid standing there. It's not actually Biggs. No, that's like his long since descended.
Yeah.
Fourth of his name or whatever, but I forget the exact number. 13th president?
No,
whichever.
Third.
But it was not the third president. There was others of different names in between.
Okay, yeah, there was other presidents.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So it's basically
generations
a legacy
down the road.
It's a legacy, and legacies can get twisted very easily, because
Sorelja.
I mean, yeah, but also because the person who held the belief doesn't need that their successors will have to believe the same. It's one of the things I actually discussed with you, Neela. One of the things that bugs the hell out of me about the promise to remember to Emmet Salt. Yeah, the Warrior of Light
Yeah, no,
does
that
believe in that
as
promise.
soon as we had that, it was like, that's fucking stupid. We got like what, 5 decades, and then it's over. Bye.
Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah, because the only person that in this current time that actually believes in that promise is the Warrior of Light. The Scions don't feel obligated. No one else does. And as far as we're concerned, there's no memorial whatsoever to the ancients. For the people of Atheris, they're these horrible people who they conquered and survived over these predecessors' corpses, basically, because we've actually driven effectively a race to extinction as of now. And there's no and the only memorial they have is the Warrior of Light. But
which is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, but no one else in the world feels that obligation to them. It's just the Warrior of Light.
Yeah. It just
this is one of the reasons why I believe that we're going to be facing the story, not necessarily of the ancients, but there's going to be a different closure for them. Of course, this is it would require lots of deep diving and interpretation as of now, because we're not even into patch content.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, let's just say I do expect a different ending for them, not extension.
Right.
But it could get a bit complicated to explain.
I'm just thinking, like, so yeah, I'm gonna let it go. It's okay.
Coward.
Sometimes you have thoughts like that.
Coward.
So, do we have any other, like, what do we think is next? What do we think is going to be point 1, point 2 going forward? Where do we think this arc is going?
That's a good question.
That's not my speculation. I have more lizard spec though.
Oh, we can talk about more lizard spec.
I actually misheard that, and I thought you were saying lizard specs.
I mean, have you looked at Seralja? That was the first thing I noticed about him. I was like, dude has a fucking 6-pack. What the fuck? He's got a special model. I hadn't caught on that it was blue yet at that point. The thing I wonder about him, like, it's very interesting because he's so upset at the whole, like, oh, I don't have 2 heads. I should have been a blessed something. But like, it looks like a mutation to me. Having those attributes combined perfectly in a singular whole, the way he is, that looks like an actual improvement, evolutionary path. But he doesn't see it that way, so it's very odd to me because I look at that and I'm like, this is correct. That's an, I don't want to be like an abomination, but like having 2 people stuck in the same body, that's a hell of a get along shirt. You know, that's got to be very difficult. Having those traits combined in one person, though, that seems better. And I'm just like, why do you not see this as the correct direction? Are you stupid?
And yeah, Venera, I agree. 7.1 and forward is really hard to predict. Mostly,
it really is.
Yeah, because we're in that ARR patch cycle. Like, who is going to predict Heaven's Word at the end of ARR, you know, or Stormblood or Shadowbringers?
Here's my big prediction for 7.1. Electrope lore drops.
Yeah.
That's what I expect. I expect to learn more about Electrope.
I want to go to the first, and I want them to start going into the Electrope they have there. I don't know what they call it there, but it's not Electrope. Maybe it's Lumithrop, but it's confirmed there. So we're going to be going back to the first at some point. And then Levin Sickness is another thing. I kind of attribute Levin Sickness to like, oh God, what is it? When someone is attacked by a Sin Eater and their ether gets unbalanced. kind of like that, but it happens naturally just because of the ambient
It
environment.
seems well. It seems like you're born to it, which is like big. Like what? Why is this an inborn condition? Is this something to do with the recycling of souls? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I have
Yes,
no
but
idea.
Yeah.
yeah, but inborn condition with supposedly an etheric imbalance, it brings to mind both 4-3 and 0. So yeah, it's
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if it's in both Alexandria and the first. That would stand to reason that it's on all the shards, including the source. And if it's on the source, why have we not found it and used it yet? Because that seems like
Exactly.
a really, really big oversight.
unless unless it's something that it's only endemic to the shards because of the
Which should
failing
be-
connection with the source.
Which would be really... It would still be really weird because then we've rejoined shards to the source. So why wouldn't it
Yeah.
be there?
Again, unless it's a simple like my weirder theories, and if it's some simple product of the sundering, and like, hey, this is one of the reasons the sundering is a problem. It's causing weird stuff to like weird phenomena on the shards,
And-
but we don't know enough because like the first was messed up in its own way.
And Quantum is absolutely right. So I had speculated earlier that Electro attunes to whatever element is more heavily aspected on whatever shard it's on. And if the source is balanced, if for example, Elidibus was very good at keeping the source balanced, then it wouldn't necessarily be something that would stand out. So it's just kind of this weird thing that I've been thinking about lately. It's like, all right, if it's on the shards, but you have to be rejoined at least, 6/14 to be able to use it. I don't know.
The thing about 7.1, I mean, of course, there was Yoshi hinting at encounter, the being the keyword, meeting point, which I think was one of the definitions he gave, which actually made my brain steam because that's exactly what Shadowbringer is. It's a meeting point. Damn quest. Anyway, so I'm not sure what to think about 7.1. Usually, the 0.1 expansions is the one where we clean political messes. But this time, I mean, Gulolja has Lamat and Koana to kind of be there.
Yes,
but, and I'm expecting Koana to...
Kona?
Yeah, I'm
There's
expecting
no
Koana to be more responsible than Lamat, I suppose, but... I don't know. I would like a break in tradition and start with the word of like doing their thing. I want to study this stupid grail and know what it's about. I don't expect a full dive into it properly until likely the end of 7.2, 7.3. But I would like a proper introduction as to the workings of it, the proper workings. We know that there's going to be something about Alexandria coming up because of the crown of Sven. What exactly? I don't know. I have no idea. But
it's a super regulator.
But I mean, yeah.
Vanera says Charlene twirls its fingers. Actually, we've held a storage of what you describe as Electrip this whole time. Teehee wouldn't put it past him.
Not be surprised at all.
No.
Yeah.
We have another Labyrinthos. We built it out of Electro.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff we used. I've wondered how they built Labyrinthos. Like, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
How do they have like the projections on? Okay, hold on. I'm having a brain moment.
Okay.
The projections of the sky on the dome itself. Like, you look at it and it looks like a sky, and I'm like, how the fuck do they do that? I
Very
swear to
living
God.
memory.
I swear to God. It's very living memory, actually, and I didn't connect that until just now. So thank you, Vanera.
So now, okay, so
This is why I told you. I've been telling you this whole thing, this whole world is actually a fucking fake sky. It's a cage. All the world. I don't want to call it a simulation, but it would be the closest thing to a simulation.
I mean, I hate to break it to you, but as a video game, it is indeed a simulation.
I know.
All right. So Meow thinks everyone's in the Matrix. Let's go into that. I want to hear about that because I know you've mentioned it a few times before.
You want me to explain?
Yes.
Okay, so I came to this. I came to this. I was. It was one of. It was during one of. So first, I actually thought of that was because of Drakengard. So, for context, in Drakengard, the sky you see, the blue sky and all that, it's actually a gilding plating. It's put up by this power of the seals to conceal the real estate of the world, which is basically a hellscape with red sky, apocalyptic, all that stuff. And I went into the Drakengard things because I share with Neil. I was seeing some themes that I could see a bit of the thread into Drakengard and Nier things. That's why Ayumi and I have been discussing about going into a new Drake and Nier episode in this context, because also the Nier raids, which also include Drakengard, were released in Shadowbringers. So it seems all to be tied together in a sense. That was the first time I kind of thought of the fake sky. But I later, I don't know. I know it was days after, but I was going into stuff from Endwalker, and I thought of Labyrinthus, and I was like, it sounds like. I was kind of comparing that to the Dome of Alexandria, which Dome of Alexandria has no real day-night transition. It does have. It does have, because it's the change between day and night themes, but you don't see it because the dome.
It's the only way you can tell.
Yeah, the dome is basically storm clouds everywhere, and then you have Solution 9, which doesn't have a day-night cycle. It's the entire. This only one theme for which also we discussed the name of that track, and it's like. So I thought of Labyrinthus, and I was like, what if I know it was related to something else that actually we were discussing glamour prism and how light works actually, and that's made me stop like, fuck, glamours are actually light based.
Hey,
We were discussing the whole ultimate what.
I was just doing. I've been clearing out the the crystalline mean gatherer and crafter quests from Shadowbringers. Glamour features in the Gathering one, the minor botanist one. Just did it last night.
I mean, it was also a big part of Stormblood as well. Stormblood,
Yeah.
If you think about that, Stormblood does have the glamour of Ralgar's Reach, and does feature domes beneath the water. So, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting as of that. So when
Pockets
I say
of life surviving under the flood.
yeah, yeah, that's what it is basically. So I don't to call the world a simulation would be a bit of a oversimplification. I would have to go into into the setting of Type 0 to explain what I believe the world is subjected to. But I'm going to call it a cycle loop. Like, it comes to a moment defined by a number of variables in which something happens, something is triggered, and there's a struggle between a force that wants the loop to continue and a force that wants this cycle to break. And it triggers a reset into a certain point, and then we go again into one of these forces finds like the perfect storm, not with Wink, as to really break the cycle. It's the best way I can actually explain us without going into.
Like I told you, I'm not convinced, but I can't tell you you're wrong either. So. Oh, and something else occurred to me. For 7.1, We're going to be getting that first raid series, the first of the Echoes of Vanadil. Yes. So at some point, we're going to have to
Yep.
do something in MSQ to lead us to whatever the hook for that raid is. Not sure what that could be. Like we said, it's very wide open at this point. But I am interested to see what that's going to be. I'm looking forward to it, even if I'm like, I can't conceive what it could be.
I want it to start in living memory. If it starts in living memory, I want an expedition from whatever shard living memory's on to go into living memory to say the dome is finally
Man.
down. What is this thing? It's been here for so long. Because we have all this.
That would be so interesting.
That would
I
be
mean,
awesome.
They're like-
I would
like-
love that.
It could be. I mean, even with the possibility that Vanadil in 14 was something built upon, something the rest of the world was built upon. The shards do indeed feature stuff from in a more preserved state than the source, as far as we know. So it could be a possibility that we find the sediments of past Vanadil more in a more preserved shard. It could be like I wouldn't
That'd be
oppose to that.
Like that's what
It
I'm
would
really
be like finding the
expecting.
sediments of the story, and it would make sense going forward. Actually,
Yeah, because there's no
have
new
to- I have to-
unlock. There's nothing. It's just there.
Water7 says, Crackpot theory, what if glamour prisms are light aspected electrope? I remember that they are like things that cause like light to bend and that's how they're supposed to work, but like, given
Yeah.
that you can craft them as a crafter, that would be a big
But we have light aspected electro. That's what's on the first.
Yeah, it might be on the source too. We'll see.
Yeah.
depends
And
on what
that's-
you
yeah.
call it exactly.
It's just
aspected,
interesting because I hadn't
Savage.
connected, we cast glamour on our outfits. And also, like the gathering quests I just mentioned too. Also, this is a thing that Electrope can do in living memory.
I mean, yeah, it's basically a glamour.
Yeah, functionally it's the same. It would be interesting if it's caused by a similar or same material as well.
Right.
I remember I was just looking at the glamour prisms the other day and remembering when you had to like have different ones depending on what kind of gear it was, and I'm like, well, I'm really glad they got rid
Oh,
of
God.
that. But, like,
Oh my god. Yeah. The
your
grade 1 to
inventory
5.
screaming, crying.
Oh.
Oh God, I don't live that. This was a very good quality of life change.
Fuck,
And yes,
I joined
AC, you can.
14. I joined 14 in 3.4. I still got to experience that the
Wait, can
glamour
you? No, I'm not
place.
sure.
Huh?
Can you cook up some prisms as a culinarian? I'm not sure I've tried. I've cooked up a lot of dyes. I know you can as the other ones. Now I'm not sure about
I've cooked up a lot of
'cause it used to
furniture.
be. I know it used to be a thing that you couldn't because there was no gear that you wore that was culinary based. Now I'm not sure. I'd have to actually check.
Yeah, but
Should
when
be
you
able
get
to,
to
though.
the collectible turn-ins and the allied tribe quests, then it gets kind of silly. It's like, yeah, I need new audio components. All right, let me pull out my frying pan.
Yep, I've done that. I've been using the Loperate quests to level my crafters, as well as the crystalline mean stuff and such, so on.
Right. All right. Well, we are almost at 2 hours now, so we are way over time. Does anyone else have any speculations or crazy things they want to throw out there before next week?
I think I got all the stuff off of my chest.
Okay. Well, unlike last week, this coming week, we will have Synodic on, or Synodic. I had said earlier that I thought last week was this week, and so I said he was going to be on this week. He's actually coming next week. So we're looking forward to that and talking some lore with him and getting his take on some stuff. I know he's been talking a lot about some of the similar things we've been seeing, which is that a lot of people are kind of coming out of the woodwork with, how do I put this nicely? bad
poor
takes.
readings of the
Poor
story.
reading, poor comprehension, to the
Yes.
point where he and I were talking. We're like, did we play the same game? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be very interesting to get into. But thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you so much. And we
I
will
would
see.
mention
Yeah.
something else. I have to get a bit, maybe 2-3 hours of sleep because I slept like 2 hours, 1 hour. But
Oh yes.
maybe after today or tomorrow, maybe both days, I'm willing to pull up music streams just for just some of them to analyze lyrics of 14, but also just to chill and enjoy Final Fantasy music, perhaps of other games' music, because I've seen people being interested in that, and it's not a content that you can exactly usually casually enjoy with others. Maybe I don't know, but
Unless
I've
you're
had
hanging out with
people
Marco
ask.
Meatball, not usually.
Yeah, that's that's the problem. I don't hang out with popular YouTubers. So later today, I'm going to try. So right now, my time is 5 p.m. Okay, let's say in 3-4 hours, I'm going to try pulling up a stream. Hopefully, both YouTube and Twitch. If not, it will have to be one or the other. But if you want to join me to go into a bit of speculation or just chilling and sharing music and commenting on that, then feel free to join me.
All right. And look forward to a notification for that. All
Yep.
right. All right, everybody.
Thanks so much for coming out, everyone. It was a
Yes.
lot of fun going down the rabbit
Yeah.
holes.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
See ya.